Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Padma Bhushan awardee Dr. R. Nagaswamy. I can go on and on and on about my experiences with this great man, but I thought it is only appropriate that one of his most significant contributions to Sanatana Dharma was an incident that happened in during the time 1986 to 1990. And to share what happened about this is Dr. Subramanian Swamy with us, former law, justice, and commerce ministers. In fact, this event ended while he was still a minister at the Chandrasekhar government. Dr. Swamy, namaskaram and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram. Yes, tell me, sir.
So, Dr. Swamy, 1976, there is a small village called Pathar near
Pathar.
Kumbakonam, and there was a disused temple, and a farmer who was just digging there comes up with 10 bronzes. He uncovers 10 bronzes. Now, out of those, he takes one bronze and sells it to a trader for 200 rupees. This trader, in turn, takes this bronze and sells it to a Chennai salesperson. At that time, it was Madras salesperson for 10,000 rupees. That guy, in turn, goes and sells it to a Bombay businessman. That time, it was Bombay for 2 lakhs. And then that thing vanishes. Ergo, a few years later, it surfaces in United Kingdom. Sir, you know this story as well as I do. I have led the basis. Please tell us what happened and what was Dr. Nagaswamy's contribution.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say how I got into this. In November 1990, I became minister with 2 portfolios, and one of them was law. And after I was sort of broken into the to the work, I was told by my office, and that time I had a young Mr. Jagdish Shetty in my office as my special assistant. He said that some lawyers from London have come to meet you. I said, are they Indians or foreigners? He said, no, they are Indians. So when they came in, I remember the name of one of them. I think it was called Sarosh Zaiwala. And he sat down and he said, I have come to make a grievance. I said, about what? He said, I was chosen by the government of India to represent them in a matter of a statue which was being either auctioned or sent to the British Museum or whatever. And it had come smuggled out of India. And so I was asked to return it because it was once upon a time a part of a now disused temple, which was under lock and key. So I was surprised. I said, how many years you have not been paid? He says, about a year and a half in completely and the little bits earlier. So I called for the file and found out that this was about a matter which started, as you have just pointed out, 1976. And it was really a matter in which our embassies had, in fact, gone in opposition to one of these commercial companies, which had which I was planning to, I think, to either sell it or auction it. And they wanted to prevent that happening, and they wanted it to be taken back to India. It's one of those rare cases in those times. Now it's become much more common, and especially after the Greeks and some others have been successful in getting whatever is being taken out of their country. So I immediately signed an order saying that all their back salaries must be paid. And then I asked them, what is your difficulty? He said, we are in the lower level, and we have to show that a murti is a integral part of the temple, and once it is consecrated and put in there, it can never be removed. Even if it's in disuse, it can't be removed. So that's where our great scholar came in, and he was actually asked to advise on behalf of the government the questions or answer the questions of the court. So his contribution was so tremendous that you would find that the judgment of the Queen's bench, it didn't go to the House of Lords, because the House of Lords said, there's nothing to appeal, and the judgment became final. So the Queen's bench was educated on the concept of a temple, the concept of an idol, and all this was done by by him. And therefore, people were, the judges were so impressed that they actually put a paragraph in the judgment. It's a reported judgment, and you can see it. And this fact was put in there, that he advised us, is knowledgeable, and cleared many doubts. The question was, if a idol is done by prana pratishtha puja and installed, does it become an integral part of the temple, and therefore the temple cannot be shifted except by the concurrence of the community? Here, what happened is that somehow a farmer was digging, and he found this thing when the metal clank came out public. He dug it out, and then the word spread, and then, as you pointed out very colorfully, how it went in higher and higher prices. So the company which was the other party, they what was it name? What was their name? Some
Sathabi,
no, not
Sathabis,
Satabi, not Satabi.
Barclays.
No, it was another name. It was uh, a company which actually owned it, and their argument was simply this: we bought it fair and square, and nobody has complained that it was stolen, and we have a right to auction it, we have a right to do what we like with it, etc. This was their broad argument. The argument which we then pressed hard, that's one of my contributions, was pressed hard, is this prana pratishtha puja, which I've used in Ram Mandir matter also, that if this was conducted, if you can prove that it was conducted by prana pratishtha puja, then the temple is permanent, even if it is in disuse, and its idol there cannot be separated. And this argument was the main argument which where our scholar did tremendous work, and convinced the judges, and therefore the judges gave an explanation, noted appreciation, and said he has convinced us, and on that basis they ordered that this idol belongs back in that temple, and it should be taken back there and put in there and safeguarded till then. So I assume that the temple has been revived, and it's working, or whatever it is, the idol has gone back. This argument I have used subsequently in many other cases, and the fact that the murtis cannot be alienated if they have been put there, not in any roadside road type of temple, but a formal temple done with prana pratishtha puja, which requires 41 days of fasting and so on, so many other rigorous things in the Agama Shastras, and therefore on that basis we have been successful in getting so many other things. this was, when I first met
Dr. Nagaswamy. Yeah.
Nagaswamy, when I first met him, he, I mean, he was so unassuming that I couldn't believe this is the man who had mesmerized the Queen's Bench, and did such a good job that the House of Lords said there's no need for an appeal, and in fact the company also did not press for an appeal. So therefore, what I'm trying to tell you is there must be many more cases. He had come to our Virat Hindustan Sangam conference, and he had given a lecture about this and the connection between Sanskrit and Hindi. He has written books, I'm told, on this subject. He was beautifully explained how Sanskrit and Hindi, Sanskrit and Tamil, excuse me, are connected. Of course, obviously, I remember jokingly, once I had a quarrel with Karunanidhi, although we used to quarrel a lot, but we were friends. So one day he told me that, this is a foreign language, this Sanskrit, so can't impose it on us. So I told him, why? He said, no, Tamil is a separate language. I said, no, it's not correct. Um, I'm sure, I believe that about 40% of the words in Tamil are from Sanskrit, or at least common to Sanskrit. So he said, no, 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 give me an example. So I said, your name, Karunanidhi, that's Sanskrit. Your symbol is called Chinnam, which in Sanskrit is Chin. And what is your Chinnam? Udayan Suryan. Surya is Sanskrit. Udaya is Sanskrit. So how can you say that? I said, I'm willing to sit with you in the with a dictionary, a Tamil Sanskrit dictionary, and show you how many words are common. So of course he had no answer, and so he went on to some other subject. But the fact is that what our
Dr. Nagaswamy. Yeah.
Nagaswamy, I should remember the name, it's got Swamy in it. So, so, and Naga is something we have to be very ready for it. So what happened is that he had so beautifully woven the argument that a temple once built, according to the Shastras, is a temple forever. And that is there in the judgment. It's very rare. I think in many of our judgments, we have not yet formalized it that way. We have done it by other means, for instance, saying that government can't take over a temple for more than a limited period. So, but demolition of a temple done by Prana Pratishtha Puja cannot be demolished. So if the DMK is demolishing temples just now, they have to show that it was not built by the Agama Shastras. And this contribution, plus of course many others, plus his work on antiques, his work in museums, all these put together, he has of course lived a full life, but we all were going to miss him very much indeed.
Dr. Swamy, one of the things that is common between the three of us is Mahapariva. He was a staunch devotee, and he told me a very interesting story. He said that he would go to talk to Mahapariva, and then he would typically go there around 4 o'clock in the evening, and then all the staff around Mahapariva will say, "Pochi, 4 mannero, Pochi," because of the next 4 hours, he would not entertain anything else, I believe. Mahaparya will have a one-on-one conversation with Dr. Nagaswamy. And then by the time, sometimes the conversation will go late into the night. So he will tell him, and the kitchen irukum paranga, anga poi or 4-5 ஆழப்பழம் இருக்கும். What it says that you go to the kitchen, you will find 4 or 5 plantains because it was too late to go eat outside. And he also said, one of the things that Mahapariva used to tell him is, don't go to another book for your reference. Go to this particular temple. There is a stone inscription here. Read that. And he was one of those rare persons, Dr. Swamy. He, in front of me, he demonstrated this. He showed me how from Brahmi script, Devanagari, Khmer, which is the Cambodia stuff, and Tamil,
Mm.
how each letter evolves over time and became this thing. So all this stuff that the Dumils say, that this is a unique language, everything was proven to be nothing but an imagination. And the book that I have here, sir, Tirukkural, what he says is Tirukkural is nothing but a translation of Manusmriti. And he goes and proves each line, each verse, one to one, one to one, one to one. This is what it is. And still, DMK wants to stand saying that Thiruvalluvar was Christian, all sorts of nonsense.
I know.
So to me, sir, I met him 3 weeks ago. He was okay, and he said that come back, I'll be fine in 2 weeks' time. Unfortunately, this thing happened out of the blue yesterday. But I'm really, really going to miss him because we were working on a new project, very, very important for Sanatana Dharma to prove something. Anyway, once it bears fruit, I'll reveal it. It's just very, very unfortunate. He was 92. He lived his life fully. I completely agree with that. But, sir, even then, his memory was very sharp. He released a book in 2020 called Dharma Yoga. And in that book, sir, a very salient point is he shows a Bactrian king issuing coins. And that coin, one side is Greek alphabet, and the other side is Brahmi. And there is a swastika there. It's a swastika there.
Of course, Swastika is ours.
Yeah.
It was stolen by Hitler.
Yes. So the point, this is 300 BCE or somewhere in that ballpark. So he has, got so much information. In fact, he also showed it to me. Look, at the time of Ashoka, when he was the governor of Takshashila province, he formalized what is called as Brahmi script and another one called Karoshti. In Brahmi, you write from left to right. In Karoshti, you write from right to left. So these form the basis for the modern languages. Hebrew, Arabic, all these things that you write from right to left is Karoshti based. And Devanagari, Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, even Khmer, everything derives the rules from the Brahmi. And he also goes on to prove that the first written conscription or inscriptions in Tamil Nadu are only after 1st century AD, which is a considerable 400 years after the reign of Ashoka. So the written Tamil is only from 1st century AD. You take Silapadikaram, these are big names, sir. The Silapadikaram Kannagi is like, this is the seminal document, blah, blah, blah. But the written proof is only in this 1st century AD. So the DMK has no foot to stand on. Even with my limited knowledge, I can, break open any argument. But unfortunately, this has been fed and fed and fed. 1,000 times told over, a lie becomes the truth. That's unfortunately the state here. But Dr. Nagaswamy, I'm going to miss him because, we would argue for so long, talk about different things, and it was just a great experience, sir. Dr. Swamy, thank you so much for...
one more thing.
Yes, sir.
One more thing. You see the Shankaracharya mutts. They have a Mathadish, and then they have juniors who are being prepared. And then the succession takes place. Now, Nagaswamy was actually in the civil service in a sense, the archaeological whatever. So, he did not develop shishyas. What we must do is when we discover a person like Nagaswamy, we must make sure that they are put in a place where they can have students and develop them so that when he finally passes away, there's somebody else to take his place who's as dedicated, as knowledgeable, and so on. So this is something we have to learn. We have lots of geniuses, but they have not been able to develop their following and people who take over. Even whether it's Ramanujam, in any field you find, people don't want or not in a position monetarily and so on to be able to have a group of students whom they develop so that by the time their time comes to go, somebody is ready to take over. That is something we have to learn, because it's not easy to invent a man like Nagaswamy over and over again.
Yes, sir. And one last story before we sign off today. In one of his books, I read that Rajendra Chola, who is the
Uh,
successor to Rajaraja Chola, he was
uh,
also called the man who conquered Gangai, called
uh,
Gangai Konda Choran. Now, what he did was, after conquering Gangai,
mm,
he brought back all the kings he conquered. He made them walk back with him all the way back to his Ishta Devata, which was a Ugra Narsimha in Virupuram, which is only about 160 kilometers from Chennai. And there, each one of those kings, they had to take the Ganga water and do Abhisheka to that Murti. And then he let them go back to be his vassals, juniors, or basically become subservient. But this point that he was a worshipper of Ugra Narsimha, and that he had all these pious habits. This is something that nobody would have learned unless you go and read his book. And he has there are inscriptions there. He never, sir, never does he say, oh, that guy wrote like this guy wrote like this. Nothing like that. He will go straight to the inscription, take a picture, and then say, this is what this means. So amazing root work, that is like from the basics, never go through any translations. So very authentic stuff. In fact, another story that he has said, Rajaraja Chora's administration, he talks about how the duties were performed in
yeah.
some proportion to the population. The Brahmins under Rajaraja Chora administration, because he was the one who formalized administration in his kingdom, only 14 to 15% jobs were held by them. Shudras, on the other hand, had 47%. And the Kshatriyas were not having any administrative duties. They were always on the front, and the Vaishyas had a small amount. So the country was run in a very different way. And this keeps going on saying that, oh, Brahmins have ruined us, Brahmins have. The proof is not there.
No, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the Brahmins. The genuine Brahmins, they combine. These guys are nowhere. And
That is true.
if I may say so, I alone dismissed their government. They couldn't do a damn thing. Not even a cycle was burned. And then the elections took place. They lost every seat except two, and Karunanidhi barely. So it's people say they are Brahmins, but they are not Brahmins by karma. They are not Brahmins by their. Brahmin is someone who is a Jnani, Tyagi, and a Sahasi. And if he's not a Sahasi, he cannot be a Brahmin. And if he's running after money, he can't be a Brahmin. If he's semi-literate, he can't be a Brahmin. And it's got nothing to do with birth. So the way to revive the great tradition of Brahmins is to see that people who are qualify in these three lines, they are declared Brahmins. They're treated as Brahmins. Otherwise, it'll be only a matter of time, because that, like the Greeks and the pharaohs, will disappear.
Yes, indeed. And I think this is a message. I think you are going to see some changes, Dr. Swamy. I can see it in the ground because I've been, interacting with a lot of people on ground. So I'm sure this is going to happen. And who knows, you might be doing a second attempt again, bringing down another one of those DMK Domini government.
Yeah, if I get a chance, yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskaram. And we'll be back again very soon.
Okay.